Let's talk about Trump derangement syndrome. Remember the last time Trump ran for the presidency, and while he was president, he was critical of NATO countries. He said the other members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, specifically the European nations, were not spending enough on their own defence. They were seeking to rely instead on the US. Now, he used his usual colourful language, and the media and his political critics said he was undermining NATO.
Donald Trump made an issue of NATO countries not paying for their own defense, but critics say his comments over the weekend crossed the line.
And they all owed money, and they wouldn't pay it. I came in, I made a speech, and I said, you got to pay up. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills. And the money came flowing in.
The utterly dangerous words of an old man that could trigger World War III.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America.
Old man that could trigger World War III.
What must be what?
Old man.
Joe always shits his diaper before dinner, always. I'm getting tired of wiping his ass. Joe does a number 2 and it goes up his back and gets everywhere and then runs down his leg.
And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down and then watch the hair come back up again. Because I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
What you talking about, Willis?
Dangerous words of an old man that could trigger World War III.
We choose truth over facts.
I knew Joe would be a shitty president, just not this shitty.
I know two people near where I live. Their kids literally, as that's where they woke up dead.
You would think I was talking about President Joe Biden, but I'm not. I'm talking about Donald Trump.
No shit, Sherlock.
It is the media's responsibility to cover both men with the same dogmatic fervor. But thus far, more ink has been spilled and more hours have been spent dissecting Joe Biden's age and mental fitness than time spent discussing the age and mental fitness of Donald Trump. So in case you missed it, here's a sampling of Trump's weekend ramblings.
We have to win in November, or we're not going to have Pennsylvania. They'll change the name. They're going to change the name of Pennsylvania.
Why would they change the name of Pennsylvania, man? Why would they do that?
The National Park Service is walking back its plan to remove a statue of William Penn. William Penn is known as the founder of Pennsylvania, a state rich in early U.S. history. Penn dreamt of a colony where Quakers, along with all kinds of Christians, could come together and worship freely.
Why would they change the name of Pennsylvania, man? Why would they do that?
Other statues around the country have toppled in a recent movement to remove certain historical figures who had ties to slavery or the Confederacy during the Civil War.
Truth is, of course, that in his own unorthodox and provocative way, Trump's trying to bolster NATO by getting the Europeans to do more, as he did when he was in office. But that reality doesn't seem to quieten the hysterical critics of Donald Trump.
The single most important thing and the single most disqualifying thing ever said by a presidential candidate.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Joe Biden is better on his worst day than Donald Trump is on his best day.
Never mind the 300 people that are dying every day from fentanyl poisoning. Never mind the humanitarian crisis that we're seeing at the border. A matter of fact, when he was sworn in the White House, our border was secure. It was sovereign.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection facing a record number of migrant encounters, including 11,000 apprehensions, the highest single-day total in at least 20 years.
Joe Biden is better on his worst day than Donald Trump is on his best day.
Child molesters are going to get set free in this country at the order of Joe Biden. Those are all going to be released and are being released instead of deported because of the Biden policies.
Joe Biden is better on his worst day than
Donald Trump is on his best day.
On every issue confronting the presidency, from health care to NATO.
No, never in the history of the country has our own president done more to intentionally harmed the United States and what this president has done with the border, illegals who've been invaded our country with the help of this president.
Any president prior to Donald Trump would have been impeached and removed from office immediately after telling that story that Donald Trump told on Saturday.
This is just more pearl clutching by people who have Trump derangement syndrome. They are constantly outraged, constantly appalled.
The stakes of this presidential election are not just what would happen here in the United States with a President Biden or a President Trump, but what would happen around the world, and now specifically what would happen to Ukraine, what would happen to Poland, what would happen to Finland and other threatened members of NATO without Joe Biden in the presidency to protect them.
And you know, I hate to tell you this about NATO. If we ever needed their help, let's say we were attacked, I don't believe they'd be there. I don't believe. I know the people. I know them. I can tell you country by country who would be there and who, but I don't believe they'd be there.
Donald Trump wants to destroy the careful work of the winners of World War II. And you live in a country where the news media thinks Joe Biden's age is more important than that.
The special counsel said Joe Biden, he couldn't prosecute him for having classified documents, the same thing they want to prosecute Trump for. This is coming from Joe Biden's administration, the special counsel. And the special counsel said he couldn't prosecute Joe Biden because the jury would just think he's an old man with a bad memory. And that's exactly what would happen. And that would be what. And so now they're freaking out.
Donald Trump is encouraging Russia to attack our NATO allies.
Look, Donald Trump is not a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. He doesn't talk like a traditional politician. And we've already been through this now. You'd think people had figured it out by now.
By the way, it was one of those crazy, and someone stood up and said, sir, yeah. And he said they were from a big country. Sir, if we don't pay, what will you do, sir?
He's basically saying is, if you see the comments, he said NATO was broke or busted until he took over because people weren't paying their dues. And then he told the story about how he used leverage to get people to step up to the plate and become more active in NATO. He's not the first American president. In fact, virtually every American president at some point in some way has complained about other countries in NATO not doing enough. You know, Trump's just the first one to express it in these terms. But
nobody's saying that. Like, what a jackass. How stupid would you have to be in that audience to go, oh, wow, didn't he really say that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't believe a big country president would say that.
Anyhow,
but it was it's just stupid.
But I took care of NATO. I said, you got to pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, we're not going to be there to support you. And the following day, the money came rolling into NATO.
Joe Biden is better on his worst day than Donald Trump is on his best.
The Department of Justice found Joe retained and disclosed classified documents, including matters of national security and intelligence sources and methods. He put America's national security at risk and then lied about it.
I did not share classified information.
After all that, Biden's special counsel still declined to indict him because he was, quote, an elderly man with a poor memory and diminished faculties who didn't even remember when he was vice president.
If you write about President Biden's age, then you are doing a disservice to the truth.
The NATO countries have to pay up. They're not paying up. They're not paying what they should. And they laugh at the stupidity of the United States of America. They're laughing at us. They think we're the stupid country.
Like, he is now so desperate to support Vladimir Putin and undercut America's allies in Europe, he's making up a Sir story. Mm-hmm. It's not even a good lie for Donald Trump.
Oh, these are stories that the fake news doesn't want to talk about. I also warned NATO about the danger of Russia. And look at the consequences. On foreign policy, the world rightly had a healthy fear that as president, I would stand strong for American priorities.
You can tell he's losing it. Like, he's losing his touch.
Vladimir Putin has just weighed in on the 2024 U.S. presidential race, and the Russian president's endorsement has gone to, drumroll please, Joe Biden.
This is Donald Trump. It's a story that a third grader would go, why is he lying to me?
And they asked me, one of the presidents of the countries at a closed meeting, 28 countries at that time, he said, does that mean that you won't protect us in case, if we don't pay, you won't protect us from Russia was the Soviet Union, but now Russia. I said, that's exactly what it means. Now, if I said, no, I don't mean that, then why would they pay?
And you know, the people in the audience, they can't be that dumb to say, oh, somebody, big country person said, sir, what if we don't? Like, this guy will do anything to justify defending and supporting Vladimir Putin.
So somebody had to say it. I was amazed it didn't get out. I was amazed. The fake news didn't pull it out. I don't know, maybe nobody wanted to talk about it. I said, no, that's exactly, and the money started to flow in. I had to give him that answer. It was a risky answer to give, too, because people would say, oh, that's a terrible thing to say, but that's the way you have to do it, I guess.
When he's president again, he's getting us ready for him to be an autocrat, a dictator, and a guy who's going to tell Vladimir Putin, sweep in.
When asked who was better for Russia, Putin, without hesitation, replied, Biden.
Oops. No bullets.